My child, there is something I must speak to you right now, and I want you to hear it with your whole heart. I am removing the coverings you have worn for too long just to survive. Those coverings once helped you get through, helped you fit in, helped you avoid being hurt. But now they are doing the opposite. They no longer protect you. They are suffocating your breath, muffling your voice, hiding your light. You thought you needed them to be loved, to be safe, to avoid judgment. But in truth, they have turned you into someone else, a version that blended into the crowd until you forgot who you were. I see you tired, not because you are weak, but because you are carrying layers that do not belong to you. They are like a mask worn for too long after a long day at first to filter dust, but by the end, only making it harder to breathe. I do not blame you for wearing them. I know why you started. But now, my child, I say this to you, it is time to shed them. You will feel strange when the fabric tears away, but you will also feel a new wind coming in. It may make you shiver for a moment, but then you will find yourself breathing deeply again. You do not yet know how exhausted you have become from trying to keep everything from breaking. You have played strong when you were trembling, played normal when you were in pain, played fine when a storm raged inside. I have watched every moment, every time you smiled to hide the cracks, every sigh no one else heard, every night you lay still in the dark thinking, no one truly knows me. I know. I have always known, and I do not blame you for trying. I understand that these masks were survival, but I love you too much to let you live forever in pretending. The closer you hold those coverings, the farther you drift from yourself. You were not created to hide, to avoid, to shrink back. You were created to shine, to speak with your true voice, to live with a heart not torn apart by fear's lies. So I am tearing these coverings away, thread by thread, not to shame you, but to free you. I know this may shock you. You have worn them so long they feel like your own skin. When I begin to pull them off, you will think I am taking part of you away, but I am not stealing, I am returning. You will feel discomfort. Like removing a bandage from a wound, the place will sting, because new skin is sensitive. But that is the sign of healing. You will want to keep a few layers, the ones that made you likable, the ones that made you useful, the ones that ensured no one disliked you. But my child, those layers are not you. I see the gasping of your soul underneath that heavy fabric. I see the moments you feared being found out, judged, rejected. I see how often you tried to please everyone except yourself. I say this enough. It is time to breathe real air, not filtered through thick cloth of fear. As I tear the fabric, you will hear the ripping like thunder inside you. You will wonder if you are becoming exposed or unsafe without a covering. But you will realize that what suffocated you was not the world, but the very layers you believed were protecting you. You mistook pretending for living. You believed that if you were honest, people would leave. You thought that if you spoke truth, you would be looked down upon. You feared that if you removed the mask, you would be empty. But I assure you, you are not empty. You are full. It was the false layers that made you feel hollow. You thought you were strong because you wore a mask. But true strength comes only when you no longer need it. And I want you to know, not everyone will understand, but you will breathe. Not every gaze will be gentle, but you will be free. Not everyone will stay, but you will find yourself, and that is worth more than all the rest. You will feel relief when these coverings fall, like removing a mask after a long journey. standing by an open window and taking your first real breath. That breath will be deep, cool, true. You will no longer have to strain to hold an image, maintain a tone, act a part you were never born to play. I am inviting you to step out of the stifling room of pretending, to sit in the sunlight of truth. It is not glamorous, not loud, not polished, but it is real, and that realness will heal you. You will walk lighter, not because you have lost anything, but because you are no longer carrying what is not yours. You will be able to smile without hiding, speak without adjusting yourself, love without calculation. You will not live two lives anymore, one outside to be accepted, and one inside just to survive. I am uniting you again, for I did not create you for fragmentation. The coverings are being torn so you can breathe truly. And when the cloth is gone, you will begin to see something deeper. Most of what you believed was your personality was simply reaction born from fear. There are habits you call just how I am. But when I look to the root, I see they began in days when you were trying to survive loneliness, judgment, and pain. What you named reserved was sometimes a heart that learned to lock its doors. What you called strong was sometimes just a hand clenched tight from fear of shaking. What you called no one understands me often grew from the moment you stopped letting anyone come close. You lived with these reactions long enough to believe they were identity. But reaction is the consequence of circumstance. Identity is the gift I placed in you before any circumstance arrived. To see yourself through fear is like looking in a mirror fogged by steam. The reflection is there, but blurred and distorted. You think that is the truth about you, but it is only a layer, a word of judgment from the past, a failure, an abandonment. Each left moisture on the mirror. The longer you stared, the more you believed the distortion was you. I did not come to break your mirror. I came to wipe it clean. I want you to see yourself as I see you, clear, beautiful, unspoiled. I want you to return to the self I created, not the version twisted by fear. You once heard of me, but there came a time when you began to see me, and in that moment, you began to see yourself again. Job whispered, I had heard of you before, but now my eyes have seen you. When your eyes see me, you will also see the true essence I placed in you. There are behaviors you have accepted as that's just me, but beneath them is a frightened child who only learned to protect itself. You say you do not need anyone, yet I remember nights you dreamed of arms holding you. You say you are strong, yet I hear your heartbeat race when you are left alone. You say you are fine, yet I see your hands shaking under the table. I do not call these things bad. I simply do not want them to hide the beauty within you. You built these walls not because you wanted to be cold, but because you were afraid of pain. I understand why you built them, but I do not want you to live inside forever. It is time to open the door. The first light may make you squint. The first breeze may make you shiver, but those are signs you are coming alive again. Self-protection once saved you in an old season, but it is not your strength in the new one. True strength does not come from shutting down emotion, but from emotion being placed in the right place. You thought your silence was wisdom, but sometimes it was only the fear of being misunderstood. You thought your independence was maturity, but sometimes it was only the fear of dependence. You thought you needed no one, but beneath it was the longing to belong. Those reactions were once survival skills, but I did not call you to survive. I called you to live. When you return to me, you begin to hear another voice whisper within, that is not your nature. That is only your reaction. Tears may come when truth appears, But these are tears that wash vision, not tears of failure. What you feel within now may be strange, softer, slightly sore, slightly embarrassed, then suddenly light, as if someone untied a knot. You are not getting weaker, you are being returned to yourself. Hope slips in like light through a thin curtain. When you look at yourself through my eyes, you no longer see a person straining to fit others, but a soul created to reflect me. You were made in my image, not in the image of fear. My purpose is not to confuse you, but to bring you home. Fear builds walls. I open doors. When you return to me, you are returning to yourself. Layers of identity begin to sharpen. And when you start to see the difference between reaction and essence, another truth appears. The masks you wear do more than cover your face. They blur my calling inside you. When you try to appear fine, I call, but the sound inside you weakens like an echo from far away. When you hide pain behind a forced smile, I whisper, but the whisper strikes the covering and not the heart. Those false layers do not only hide you from others, they also hide my voice from you. Not because I am silent, but because the ears of your heart are stuffed. The sound is there, but it becomes muffled, dull, distant. There were seasons when I tried to lead you into something great, but the mask made you believe I was calling someone else. You stood at the door and thought there was no invitation. I do not blame you. I simply point this out. Hiding does not only protect you from pain, it also hides the most beautiful promises I have for you. Each mask is like morning fog on your eyes. You look at the world, the future, at yourself, but without clarity. Everything feels covered in a pale haze. You see motion, but not direction. Opportunity, but not the door. Light, but you dare not step. Your eyes are not blind, but they are dim. Your ears are not deaf, but they are stuffed. You still pray, but the answers seem to pass through a thick curtain. You still seek my will, but the signals seem broken. It is hard to follow when you cannot hear clearly. And that is what frightens you. You fear missing something important. You fear I am speaking and you are not catching it. You fear a destiny moment will come and you will walk past it because the mask made you unseeing. That slight panic is not weakness. It is the soul realizing a truth. The danger is not darkness, it is blur. There were moments when I placed you very close to the answer, very close to the path, very close to the opening, but the mask made you choose safety instead of stepping forward. You were at the door but did not knock. You were standing where light fell. Yet you turned away thinking you were unworthy. The mask told you that you were not enough, that this was not yours, that you should not be noticed. That voice was not mine, but it was close enough to your ear that you mistook it for intuition. A mask does not only cover, it speaks. It whispers with the voice of fear. And when fear speaks, my voice is lowered. Many opportunities were not lost. They simply passed by because you did not hear the moment I called. Not because you did not love me, but because the covering made my calling sound like distant wind. This creates a paradox. The more you try to show others the correct version, the more you disconnect from the version I am shaping. The more you live a role, the further you drift from the true calling. Masks always demand effort. You must remember which version you are playing. You must guard the image. You must calculate every word and gesture. Meanwhile, my voice often comes softly, unforced, like a small breath through a crack. When your mind is busy holding the role, that breath cannot enter. The tension does not come from me, but from maintaining disguise. After a while, you no longer know which whisper is real. The blur exhausts you, disorients you, and deep inside you long for clarity. You do not want to wander, you want to hear me clearly. I do not come to scold. I come to remove the cotton from your ears and wipe the fog from your eyes. You do not need to strain to hear me. You only need to drop the covering. When it falls, the space between us becomes open and bright. You begin to notice that what was once vague becomes sharp. Some choices you once saw as risky now appear as invitations. Some doors you once feared now look like grace. You no longer choose by reaction, but by leading. When you hear clearly, your heart will tremble, not from fear, but from wonder. I have been calling you for long. The voice never stopped. Once the mask falls, you will realize you have been standing in light all along. There are moments when the covering falls and your soul flinches like someone caught under sudden light. The reflex is to shrink, hide your face, run back to familiar shadow. You fear being seen. You fear others discovering what you hid. You fear your cracks, weaknesses, and failures becoming reasons for ridicule or abandonment. I know that fear. It is not irrational, it is memory. But I speak with gentleness and authority. I do not expose you to shame. You I expose to save you. Because there is something more frightening than others seeing your truth. It is you continuing to be chained by the wrong story about yourself. I do not come to recite your failures like an indictment. I come to remove what binds you so you no longer live under a lie. You built a story around yourself to survive. A small story, safe, with low walls and closed doors. A story where you said, I am only this. I could never do that. I am not worth being chosen. I belong in the back. I do not say those sentences came from pride. They came from wounds. The things you said about yourself were your attempt to explain why the pain happened. You wrote a narrative to make suffering make sense. But sometimes the narrative is wrong. Wrong from the root. Wrong from the premise. Wrong from the voice telling it. It becomes a trap, tightening day by day. You lived under that self-story so long you believed it was truth. You walked as a background character, while I wrote the leading role for you. I cannot let a false story define you any longer. I must cut the rope. The image of a rope around your ankle is very real. Before me it is not heavy, but tight enough to limit your steps. You can walk, but not far. You can run, but not fast. Every time you try to change, the rope pulls you back. It whispers, don't try, you will fail again. Don't hope, you will hurt more. Don't love, you will be left. You think it is the protection of reason, but it is only memory that has not been healed. I am not angry at you for believing that rope. I am angry at the rope for binding you. I come not with the knife of condemnation, but with the hands of the one who unbinds. You hear exposure and think of shame. I hear it and think of freedom. When I expose, I do not expose you, I expose the rope. There are places where I will let the light fall, not so others will look at you, but so you can see clearly. Wherever you are living inside the wrong story, I will bring the true one. Wherever you accuse yourself, I will bring forgiveness. Wherever you confine yourself, I will bring promise. Wherever you say, I can't, I will ask, who told you that? Wherever you think you are unworthy, I will show you that I already paid the price. Exposure is not dragging you into the marketplace. Exposure is opening the dark room so you can see you were never locked in. Light does not condemn you. Light condemns the darkness. When you tremble at the fear of being found out, I lay my hand on your shoulder and say, be still. I did not come to criticize you. I came to cut the rope. There is a very thin moment between fear and peace. That is the moment you understand my purpose. When you see light shining into the place you hid so carefully. Your heart beats fast. But then you hear me say, I already know, and I am here. In a single breath, everything changes. It is no longer the light of accusation, but of healing. No longer someone standing in judgment, but a father stepping in. I do not say, why are you like this? I say, let me carry this. Instead of shame, you feel relief. Instead of hiding, you begin to open the door. It is strange that when you stop straining to cover yourself, you do not become weaker, you become stronger. When you no longer pretend to be perfect, the ground beneath you becomes real. You can walk more steadily because you are walking in the right story. I have watched you live for years inside the wrong story, a story written by fear, by comparison, by words spoken by people who were hurting too. But I did not give you a life so you could live as a side character. I wrote your true story with truth, with patience, with grace. The true story does not shame you, it restores you. It does not make you bow your head, it makes you stand tall. When I cut the rope, your steps will change, not because you boast of strength, but because you are no longer being pulled backward. Exposure is an act of love. I do not expose you, I expose the chains. I do not strip you, I strip the lies. I do not leave you bare, I leave you free. The rope is cut, but the next step is not simple. Truth will touch the most tender places in you, the places you wrapped long ago with the soft cloth of pretending. When light comes, it is not always warm at first. Sometimes it is harsh. Sometimes it reveals places unhealed, old wounds you tried to ignore. I do not say truth is always gentle when it first arrives. I say truth always heals. Truth is like bitter medicine on the tongue. The first taste makes you want to pull back. Spit it out. Reach for something sweet to cover it. But bitter medicine heals. It goes down. It works. It cleans. You may not see it immediately, but deep inside, life is being restored. Lies are different. They are sweet, soft, easy to swallow. They dissolve quickly, bringing comfort. But inside they sow slow poison. I do not want you to live on sweet poison, even if its taste seems easier than the bitterness of truth. There are things you accepted because they were gentle, because they did not stir anything inside you. You called it peace, but it was only avoidance. You said everything is fine, but it was false fine, not true fine. True fine is a firm foundation to stand on. False fine is only a rug laid over a hole. Truth arrives like a doctor's work cutting, cleansing, bandaging. No one feels comfortable when someone touches what hurts. But without touch, nothing heals. I love you too much to let a wound become infected in silence. It is time to wake up. The first pain is only the sign that life is returning. I speak, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Freedom always costs something to be free. You must be willing to face what you once avoided, but that freedom is worth every first tear. Spiritual paradox always works differently from what you are used to. You want peace, but you must pass through trembling. You want healing, but you must let me touch the pain. You want strength, but you must let weakness be seen. You want life, but you must release what is killing your soul slowly. You want peace, but you must walk out of falsehood. This is not punishment, this is process. I do not throw you into fire to burn you. I bring you into light to purify you. You will feel the solemn weight of this spiritual surgery, and that is good. Solemnity brings clarity. I do not invite you to perform. I invite you to be real. At first, truth may make you silent, but that silence is the beginning of hearing clearly. When there is no more noise of excuses, no more sound of hiding, no more clever explanations, you will hear my voice. There will be a moment when you must choose real pain now, or slow decay later. Falsehood does not bite at once. It smiles. It soothes. It promises. It wraps itself around you. It whispers, do not face. Do not think. Forget. It gives you a warm blanket. But the blanket is woven from cords that bind. You lie beneath it thinking you are comforted. But in truth, you are held down. Truth is the opposite. It does not seduce. It does not paint itself. It comes with straightforward light. It touches, and you shiver. But when you let it stay, it will heal. It will warm. It will renew. You do not choose between happiness and truth. You must choose truth to have real happiness. What I want for you is not instant comfort, but lasting life. And as you begin to taste the flavor of truth, you will discover something wondrous. What made you tremble at first becomes what sustains you later. Like a sick person taking bitter medicine, not for the taste, but for the life it brings afterward. Lies are poison candy, easy to eat, addictive, and hard to notice as death drips through slowly. Truth is spiritual food, not always attractive, but it makes your bones strong, your heart clean, your eyes bright. I want you to choose with clarity, not because of pressure, but because you see the consequences. You are no longer in spiritual childhood. I invite you to stand in the light of maturity. Not everything that feels pleasant is good, and not everything that feels unpleasant is bad. I teach you to discern. From today, you will know real pain is the doorway to freedom. Truth does not come to make you smaller. It comes to restore your true size. What I am tearing away is not your skin, but the cloth that covered the face of your soul. For many years, you lived as though you had to hide beauty, conceal brightness, shrink yourself so no one would see. You believed hiding was humility, but it was only fear wearing a mask. When the covering begins to tear, the first breath feels like someone stepping out of a cramped room, lungs expanding, eyes squinting at light, heart beating fast because it is not used to space. And then you are surprised when you look into a true mirror, not a foggy one. What I reveal is not the ugliness you feared, it is the beauty that was forgotten. Beneath the old cloth, your shining face has been waiting a long time to be seen, not first by the world, but by you. You have grown used to measuring yourself by your wounds. Every scratch, every failure, every word spoken by others becomes evidence against you in the courtroom of your own heart. You condemn yourself before anyone else ever has the chance. You do not realize that you have become the keeper of a record of wrongs, writing down every mistake, repeating them like a curse. But I do not want you living as the guard of old verdicts. When the mask falls, what I want you to see first is the light of my own face reflected in your eyes. You do not need to be perfect to be beautiful. You only need to be true. The beauty I placed in you does not come from paint on the outside, but from my breath on the inside. When you breathe honestly, that face begins to shine in a way no camera can capture. There have been seasons when you believed beauty had to be manufactured, made up, edited, trimmed, polished. You believed that to be loved you had to become a version someone else would accept. But I know another truth. True beauty is not added, it is restored. No brush, no lipstick, no color grading, only light. When the mask falls, you will see the lines I carved into you from the start: compassion, strength, kindness, the brightness of a horizon in your eyes. You forgot them, not because they disappeared, but because they were covered. I do not come to create something artificial, but to remove what is false. You have assumed I expose you to shame you, but I expose you so you can respect yourself. You are not your mistakes. You are my workmanship. Restoring beauty is work I love. I delight in watching you step out of the shadow of hiding into a light that asks for no performance. There is a beauty that appears when the soul no longer strains, when the shoulders no longer lift to look strong, when the hands no longer clench to keep from shaking, when you relax, not because you've given up, but because you trust. That beauty emerges. It is not loud, not flashy. It is quiet as a still lake, but deep and magnetic. Others may not understand why they sense something in you, but they will sense it, not because you are showing off, but because you are real. This is the beauty I am restoring in you, the beauty of presence, not performance. You are free to breathe, and that breath itself is proof that you are alive. When you stand before a true mirror, not a distorted one, you may be surprised. You will not see the monster your fear once described. You will see the child I love, not flawless, but beloved, not without scars, but kept, not without pain, but not defined by pain. That is the moment you begin to honor yourself, not out of pride, but out of truth. You realize that keeping the mask was never self-love. True self-love is daring to show up with your real face. I do not remove your mask to expose something ugly, but to reveal what is beautiful. When that real face stands in my light, it shines in its own way, free, and not needing any explanation. You will take a deep breath, not because a task is finished, but because you have finally come back to yourself. From the moment you start to see your true beauty again, another truth also appears, like a line of writing inside the light when you wear a mask. You are not living in response to me. You are living to be accepted by others, not because you are bad, but because you learned a very human way to survive. You watch the people around you. Notice their expressions, their tones, their gestures, and then you adjust yourself. You become so sensitive that you can read expectations in a glance, hear hesitation in a sigh, feel slight disappointment when you do not play your part. You shrink in some places, amplify yourself in others, say just enough, withhold what might cause waves. You live like a skilled actor, and the whole world is a stage. No one notices. Everyone thinks you are easygoing, sweet, considerate. But I see something different. You are not living from the inside. You are living for applause. Deep in your soul lives a very real fear, fear of being left behind. Fear that if you do not please them, you will be pushed aside. Fear that if you speak honestly, they will turn away. Fear that if you need something, you will become a burden. To avoid all this, the mask became your tool. You just had to keep it in place. Keep the smile at the right level. Keep your words safe. Keep your charm in a way that made others comfortable. And then you waited for applause. You waited for approving eyes. You waited for praise. You're so good. You're so lovely. You're such a wonderful person. Those claps are not evil, but they slowly became your air. When there was no applause, you felt lost, unsure of who you were. I do not blame you. You were only trying to be loved. But on that stage, you slowly lost the true voice I wanted to speak over you. Audience and master are two different realities. The audience applauds when you play the role well. The master speaks when you live truly. The audience likes what is pleasant. The master calls what is right. The audience wants you beautiful before them. The master wants you beautiful before him. As long as the mask stays on, you cannot hear my verdict clearly, because the ears of your heart are listening for the crowd. You step out each day as if silently asking, what do they want from me, instead of, what do you want from me? You are always aware of other people's eyes, but rarely aware of my gaze. You are used to adjusting yourself to be accepted, but not used to standing still in my choice of you. This dependence is subtle, not loud, not crude, but controlling. It makes you turn yourself before many mirrors, yet leave mine unused. There are moments when you wonder why you are so tired when nothing heavy seems to be happening. It is the exhaustion of acting, not the weariness of living. Acting requires effort, living requires roots. When you live to be accepted, each day is an exam. You hear a voice in your head, don't disappoint them. Don't unsettle anyone. Don't upset anyone. And so you shrink yourself, not out of humility, but out of fear. You avoid saying what is true because you fear losing applause. You avoid stepping into the place I call you to because you fear they will not understand. You hide your pain because you do not want to inconvenience others. You hide your great joy because you fear envy. You live to hold a fragile balance between everyone's expectations, and your soul closes little by little, not because you are fake, but because you are afraid of being real. But I say this, you were not made for an audience. You were made for me. The audience changes its mind every day. I do not change. The audience can love you when you fit and turn away when you shift. I love you when you are true. You want to be loved. But true love does not demand that you perform. True love looks at the uncovered face and says, I see you, and I choose you. The audience claps when you play your role. The master speaks when you walk in your calling. Applause ends when the curtain falls. My word remains when the lights go out. Which sound do you need to live by? Which sound will lead you? Which sound will tell you where to go tomorrow when the mask falls? The clapping may stop. Some will be surprised. Some may step back. Not everyone likes what is real. But when the applause fades, another sound emerges, mine. My voice is not loud, it is deep. It does not push, it guides. It does not demand performance, it invites life. It does not shift with moods, it is steady as rock. I speak to you not in the rhythm of the crowd, but in the rhythm of heaven. You do not need to keep everyone pleased. You need to do what I call you to do. When my word becomes stronger than their applause, you will discover something strange. You are not alone. Even if few remain, you are not empty. Even without praise, you are not lost. Because you have a direction. There is a moment in every soul when truth touches you. Realize you have lived far too long just to be accepted. That realization stings, as if someone pressed on a bruise. But right after it comes something lighter. Lighter because you no longer have to perform. Lighter because you no longer have to remember your lines. Lighter because you no longer need to read the eyes of others to know if you are okay. Lighter because you can take a deep breath and still be loved. There is a freedom in true breathing that you are not used to yet. But I will teach you. Not the freedom of irresponsibility, but the freedom of obedience. Not the freedom to flail, but the freedom to walk straight. Not the freedom of pride, but the freedom of humility. When the mask falls, you do not lose anything real. You only lose what was false. You were not created to live under stage lights, but under my light. When you turn your face away from the audience to face me, you will realize that my voice does not only call you out, but calls you up. You no longer let the crowd determine your worth. No longer let applause confirm your identity. You know who you are not because someone claps, but because someone has said, you belong to me. And in that truth, in that space, your soul can stand upright, no performance, no adjusting your voice, no shrinking yourself. You will live not to be accepted, but to answer me. There are days you come home exhausted, not from hard labor, but from holding yourself together. People look at you and assume you are always fine, always know what to do, always know how to carry weight. They lean on you. They ask for advice. They come to you for shelter, and you have grown used to standing tall, smiling gently, offering comfort, bringing peace to others. But when the door closes, your shoulders collapse. No one sees it. No one hears the long sigh you hide. No one witnesses the moment you rest your back against the wall just to stay upright. You once thought that was maturity, but I know the truth. You have been tired from playing strong. You brace yourself not because you are strong, but because you fear that if you become weak, everything will collapse. Outwardly, you are a warrior. Inwardly, you are someone who just wants to be held. You have worn armor every day as a reflex. The armor of composure, the armor of cleverness, the armor of cheerfulness, the armor of independence. You step into the world like a soldier, but you forgot that a soldier only wears armor in battle. At home, they need to take it off. You never take it off when you are alone. You sleep with it. You eat with it. You pray with it. You speak to me with it. And that armor is heavy. Not heavy from metal, but heavy from loneliness. I do not rebuke you for wearing it. I simply invite you to lay it down. The place I am calling you into is not the battlefield anymore. It is my heart. There, you can be weak and still be loved. When David stood before the Lord, he did not wear the king's armor, did not carry someone else's sword, did not clothe himself in a false image of strength. He came with a harp, with songs, with tears, with trembling. He was a warrior out there, but before me, he was a son. Some psalms were not written from victory, but from exhaustion. My soul is weary, yet I hope in you. You do not need to enter my presence with a heroic posture. You come in with truth. Sometimes that truth is, I am weak. Sometimes the truth is, I do not know what to do next. Sometimes the truth is, I am hurt. None of those sentences make me move away. In fact, they are the sentences that open the door. Standing strong before others is not a sin, but remaining strong before me is a burden. I do not invite you to perform. I invite you to rest. When you come to me and say, I'm fine, I have already seen the trembling in your hands. When you say, I can handle it, I have already seen your red eyes. When you say, it's okay, I have heard your heart pounding. I do not need you to prove anything to me. I have already proved my love to you first. You do not need to hold your weapons in my presence. You do not need to be on guard. You do not need to be in control. When you lay your head on my chest, you do not become weaker. You become strong in a different way. Strength is not never trembling. Strength is knowing where to tremble. Your tears are not foreign to me. They do not make me nervous. They do not disappoint me. They are the language of the soul. When you cry before me, you are not broken. You are returning. Weapons fall from your hands. Armor slips from your shoulders. And you feel something strange, lightness. Not because the battlefield disappeared, but because you are no longer fighting alone. When you are weak, I hold. When you do not know, I lead. When you are tired, I am where you rest your head. You do not need to prove endurance to me. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to sit. You are allowed to say little. You are allowed not to know. You are allowed to be weak and not be abandoned. That is true love. From the place where you sit down, where the armor has been set aside and your breathing becomes steady, a slow but deep change begins. The voice of judgment in your mind is no longer the only sound. It used to be loud. It used to intrude into every thought, interrupt every hope, argue with every promise. It judged without stopping. You are not enough. You did it wrong. You will repeat failure. People are watching. Do not be foolish and believe in good. That voice was the background hum of your mind, like the distant engine noise you have gotten used to, unaware that it has been exhausting you. But when the mask falls and the performance drops, space opens inside you. Those voices are still there, but they no longer lead. In that space, another voice begins to rise, not loud, not dramatic, but authoritative. That voice has been there a long time, but you hear it more clearly when you no longer have to hold yourself together. It is not a shouting voice. It does not compete with fear by volume. It is like a gentle wind through a doorway, like a warm breath on the back of your neck. It does not push, it invites. It does not force, it guides. The voice of judgment is always urgent, always tense, always speaks in absolutes, always, never, must, can't. But my voice is different. It is slow. It is soft. It is enough to make you want to lean in that place where performance has fallen to the ground. You begin to notice the difference. Not every voice in your mind is truth. One voice comes from fear, and one voice comes from me. When you are no longer wearing the mask, you no longer need to defend yourself against my voice. You are free to hear. And when the ears of your heart open, you are astonished. My voice does not ridicule you, does not laugh at you, does not demand you to run faster. It speaks your name with a gentleness you had forgotten. There is an old story I want you to remember in 1 Kings 19. When Elijah fled, he hid in a cave. He waited for my voice in the wind, the earthquake, and the fire, but I was not in any of those. After all of it, there was a gentle whisper, a small breath, and he knew I was there. That is how my voice comes to you. Not as a storm, not as applause from the crowd, not as endless demands of duty, just as a whisper. And the strange thing is that whisper carries the greatest authority. When you are tense, the judging voice in your mind always screams, "Be careful." But my voice simply says, "Be still. I am here." When you fear losing, the judging voice cries, "Hold tight," but I say, "Open your hands. I hold you." My voice does not use threats. It uses presence. In the past, you thought you were listening to me. But in truth, you were listening to fear in a sacred shape. Fear knows how to speak very convincingly. In spiritual language, it uses scripture to accuse, uses experience to prove, uses memory to warn, uses interpretation to corner. Fear is not rough. It knows how to wear a holy robe so you will respect it. But when the mask falls, when you no longer have to perform before fear, you begin to hear its voice trembling. The voice of judgment pushes. My voice invites. Judgment makes you shrink. My voice makes you open. Judgment makes you defend yourself. My voice gives you rest. When you no longer have to pretend to be strong, you begin to hear my voice more clearly, and you realize it had been speaking all along, only buried under the noise of anxiety. Something miraculous happens when you set the mask down. The ears of your heart become sensitive. Not sensitive because of tension, sensitive because of trust. When there is no longer the pressure to be perfect, you begin to notice the subtle leading in small things. A scripture suddenly glows. A simple sentence carries a strange weight. You feel a light urging in your heart, do not fear. You begin to discern, this is my voice, soft, yet sure, small, yet deep, few words, yet perfectly timed. You no longer try to hear like someone decoding a secret. You simply listen. Clarity comes not through effort, but through surrender. You do not need to chase spectacular signs. You only need to sit still in my presence. From there, the path becomes clear. Hope arrives like morning dew, not loud, not showy, just a growing brightness. You do not need to know everything. You only need to hear the first word, I am here. When that voice becomes the foundation, every other voice returns to its proper place. The judgment in your mind loses authority. It still tries to interrupt, but it is no longer king. It no longer receives automatic belief. You begin to ask, who is speaking? And that question changes everything. You no longer receive every inner voice as truth. You discern. You choose. You follow my voice. When my voice becomes stronger than judgment, you will walk lighter, clearer, freer. You will no longer live to please a voice in your head. You will live to follow mine. As you begin to hear my voice more clearly, another awareness rises from within. Masks are not heavy. When worn, they are heavy when held. At first, they are light, like a thin cloth, a soft fabric, a pleasant demeanor. You think, just a little, to make things easier, to make everyone comfortable, to keep me safe. It has no weight the first time you put it on, but over the days and years, it is no longer a soft piece of fabric. It becomes a thick layer over your face, your chest, your lungs. You are so used to it, you no longer realize you are breathing shallow. You do not notice that the space inside you has shrunk. You think you have become smaller because of humility, but in truth, you have become smaller because of lack of air. Not lack of ability, lack of breath. The mask does not take much at once. It takes your breath, one breath at a time. And when the breath runs low, you call it exhaustion. I see your back bending over the years, not because of age, but because of invisible weight on your shoulders. You carry not only responsibility, but expectation, not only work, but image, not only the demands of life, but your own determination not to disappoint anyone. Every mask adds a little weight. Every role adds a little strain. At first, it protects you from pain, but slowly, it becomes pain. No one comes to share the burden, because no one can see it. You smile. You speak kindly. You stand upright, and everyone thinks you are strong. But I see the unnatural curve in your shoulders. You were not born to bend. You were created to stand tall. But the masks pull you down, like someone gently placing sandbags on your back every day. Pressure does not arrive like a storm. It arrives like individual raindrops. Until one day you realize you are soaked. The mask requires you to remember every gesture, every tone, every correct response, every well-placed smile. It must be managed. It must be monitored. It must be maintained. Every time you leave the house, you check if the mask is straight. No one asked you, asked yourself. No one forced you, forced yourself. You strain not because others demand it, but because you fear disappointment. But I ask you gently, have you ever wondered why you are tired, so deep down you think it is work, responsibility, age, circumstance? But I see the root. You are weary because you are holding the mask. Light when worn, heavy when kept. It is not hard to put on a mask. The hard part is taking it off, because when you remove it, you fear emptiness. You fear cold. You fear others seeing your true face, with its scratches, fatigue, and scars. But I do not love the mask. I love that face. I do not hold the mask's hand. I hold yours. The mask makes you short of breath because it shrinks the space where I put my breath. When you keep it on, your chest tightens. You do not know why you pant after a short distance, not a steep hill, but your own expectations. The mask holds your breath like a hand over your mouth. You do not notice. You only know that you are always missing a little oxygen for your soul. I do not lead you to freedom by asking you to be stronger. I lead you to freedom by inviting you to be lighter. The mask is not your work. It is not part of your mission. It is not something I ever asked. I never said, pretend. I never commanded, be what they want. I never invited you to strain in order to fit expectation. I invite you to breathe. I invite you to live. The mask does not need to be defeated. It only needs to be set down. And when you set it down, the first deep breath may make you tremble, not because of fear, but because you are not used to freedom. You will be surprised that breathing, something so simple, could bring tears. But they are the tears of someone coming home. As breath returns and the weight on your shoulders lightens, another truth shines through like a beam of light through a curtain. You once thought the mask protected you from others, but in truth it prevented others from loving you. You wore it like armor so you would not be hurt. But armor also blocks every embrace. You built a transparent wall thinking it would keep you safe, but though others could see you standing on the other side, they could not reach you. They saw your shape, heard your voice, sensed your presence, but not with warmth. That wall was not stone or brick, but cold glass. No one threw anything at you, but no one could touch your heart. The irony is that you built it to protect yourself. Yet deep inside, you long to be held. No one blames you for building that wall. You had been hurt enough to learn defense. You once entrusted your heart to the wrong hands, and they could not hold it. You once walked home with a torn heart and no one knew. In moments like that, you stood before the mirror and silently vowed, no one touches this place again. It was an unspoken vow. Yet it functioned like a covenant. Every time someone came too close, you smiled a little wider, spoke a little softer, made everything look fine, so they would not suspect you were keeping distance. They found you sweet, kind, strong, but the vulnerable parts, the tender parts, stayed behind the glass. You told yourself the wall was self-love. But true self-love is not isolating the heart. True self-love is giving the heart the chance to be loved. I see the faint ache in your chest every time someone leaves. Even when you never say a word, you act as if you are fine, as if you need no one. But I hear the sigh when the door closes. You are not asking people to be perfect. You only wish they could see the real you. But how can they see you if no one is allowed close? You think they will not understand your weakness. So you hide it. You think that if you cry, they will look down on you. So you swallow it. You think that if you need something, you will be a burden. So you stay silent. But that silence has become a sheet of ice. On the outside, you are warm and pleasant. On the inside, no one knows you are cold. You think the wall protects you, but it isolates you. It keeps the warmth outside and the cold inside. The result is this: you feel lost even among those who love you. I speak with truth and compassion. People cannot love what you do, not let them see. They do not know how to embrace an arm in armor. They cannot feel your breath from behind glass. They cannot hear your heartbeat when it is covered by a hard shell. It is not that they do not care, they simply have no access. When you let a mask stand in the middle, they love the version you perform, not your true self. That makes you feel unloved even while they are trying to love. You feel lonely in the very arms that hold you, because those arms never reach your heart. You are not wrong for wanting to be safe. You have simply used the wrong tool. True protection is not sealing everything off, but knowing what to open and what to close. I am not asking you to open your door to everyone. I am asking you not to close it to everyone. There is a gentle pain in your chest when you realize this, but it is the pain of a heart softening, not breaking. It is like blood returning to a limb that has been numb. You want to be seen, known, understood, and loved without having to perform. And I tell you clearly, you are worthy of real love. Not love for the strong, polished, flawless version. Love for the one who sometimes shakes. Love for the one who sometimes cries. Love for the one who sometimes needs help. Love for the one who has good days and bad days. You do not have to be lovable to be loved. You just have to be real. A transparent wall keeps others out, but it also keeps you in. I do not come to smash every wall, but to show you where the door is. I invite you to try one small step, a slight opening. Not tearing everything down, not exposing everything, just a narrow gap for warmth to pass through. One honest sentence, one honest breath, one resting of your head. When you open even a small crack, others will begin to see the light in you that you yourself had forgotten. They will not see perfection, they will see beauty. And you will taste something you have longed for a very long time: to be touched, to be understood, to be held. When you lay the mask down, you do not lose safety, you find love. Not everyone will step in, but those who belong in your life will recognize you, not your role. And in that, your soul will breathe freely. When you crack the door open and let people touch the real warmth, you think, I will rebuke you for being weak. But I do not. I did not invite you here to perform your strength for me. I do not need your mask. I do not love your role. I love your soul. There are times you stand in the corner of a room, leaning against the wall, eyes fixed on the floor, like a child clutching their shirt with one hand and holding their breath with the other, waiting for a sign that it is safe. I see you. I do not say, "Why are you so timid?" I say, "I am here." You have no idea how heaven rejoices when you take even one small step out of that corner. Not because you did something impressive, but because you were true. My joy does not come from your perfection, it comes from your presence. There is a strangely beautiful moment when the soul is trembling yet moves, stepping into the light not because you are sure, but because you trust. You do not need to know the outcome, you only need to know I am there. Your heart beats fast, your face flushes, your legs feel unsteady, but that is not the sign of failure, it is the sign of being alive. You once thought strength meant never trembling, but true strength is trembling and stepping anyway. When you step out, not with swagger but with honesty, I embrace you. You do not step into emptiness, you step into arms. The light does not expose you to shame, it shows you the path. Every step is worship, because it declares that you trust me more than your fear. I do not delight in your hiding, not because I want to show you off, but because hiding makes your soul shrink. You were born to move, not to fold into yourself. You were born to laugh genuinely, not to smile just to be polite. You were born to have a voice, not only to say what is safe. You were born to be seen, not to disappear into the corner. When you hide, you are not wicked, you are simply starved of air. When you step out, you are not arrogant, you are simply alive. First steps are always clumsy. Every child wobbles before they walk steady. No one expects the child to be perfect. They are simply joyful that the child walks. I am the same. I do not wait for you to be steady before I rejoice. I rejoice in your gentle courage when you take a step. Light does not come to blind you, it comes to warm you. When you leave the corner, you will feel the chill retreating behind you. Not because darkness vanishes from the earth, but because it is no longer your home. Your home is light. There you are held, not because you got it right, but because you are mine. I do not need you to run to me quickly. I only need you to turn toward me. Every small step is a spiritual victory. Every deep breath is a silent song. When you tremble, you are real, and when you are real, I am near. I invite you to step a little further out of the corner, out of the shadow, out of the place where you used to hide your tears. Not so everyone can see, but so you no longer have to live hunched over inside. When you stand in the light, your face shines, not because there are no flaws left, but because there is no fear left. I look at you and I smile, not because you have accomplished something grand, but because you are living. That gentle courage is more beautiful than any strong performance. You can tremble in my arms. You can be weak on my shoulder. You can breathe in my light. I do not delight in the mask. I delight in you. Your trembling yet honest steps are not just small movements in a closed room. They mirror a greater movement that is unfolding across the earth. You think your story belongs only to you, but I am showing you a bigger picture. I am removing masks not only from individual souls, but from systems, from mindsets, from this age. What is happening inside you is a miniature of what is happening in the world. It is not just one face, but many faces. Not just one wall, but countless walls. Not just one mask being taken off, but a global stage preparing to change scenes. I am not only healing you, I am positioning you in a historic moment. What you are sensing is not only personal, it is also prophetic. It is no accident that you are waking up now. There is a larger stage that human eyes rarely see, but your soul knows it. On that stage, the velvet curtain is being slowly drawn back. Characters once seen as heroes begin to falter. Those who once seemed wise are revealed as empty. Voices that used to dominate no longer sound as loud. I am shaking foundations people thought were solid, not to destroy, but to reveal what is true. What was once celebrated will now be tested by light. What was once covered under beautiful labels will now be examined by truth. I am not doing this in secret. This is a change of scene. A new act of the age is rising. The walls built of lies will not stand. I am pulling the curtain down with my bare hands. And when the velvet hits the floor, you will see the difference between glamour and holiness. This battle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, authorities, and the powers of darkness in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6. The chill you feel at the back of your neck is not because you fear people, but because you sense the wind of a spiritual war blowing. You begin to see that every small choice you make suddenly carries a different weight. The whisper inside you is not just a mood, it is guidance. When you step into true light, you stand in your proper place in my ranks, not in the front or the back, but exactly where you belong. Every awakened soul is a lamp on a city. Every fallen mask is a ringing bell. I am not only doing this with you, I am doing this with many. Exposure is not meant to shame, but to bring an era to an end. There are systems that have been built on masks, systems of false glory, hollow power, and surface morality. People act virtuous to hide their greed. They act loving to hide their need for control. They act humble to hide their hunger to be first. But I did not come to maintain that paint. I came to peel it off. Why is the world shaking because I am touching it? My touch is not light like dust. It saturates like fire. I will not allow this age to go on living with its mask. The covering that once helped people survive in the dark has now become a prison. I have come to break the lock. You can feel this in your bones. The era of covering is over. When you look at yourself and see your mask fall, you are not just witnessing a private change. You are feeling the breath of a new season. A season where truth no longer stays quietly backstage, but walks out to center stage. You will see things that seemed unshakable collapse overnight. You will see those who seemed small become a voice. You will see dark corners lit up, not by condemnation, but by presence. I am not doing this only through sermons or rituals. I am doing it through the real lives of people like you. When you step out trembling but true, you step into a movement larger than yourself. You are no longer just a survivor, you are a sign, a part of the command, a living proof that this age is shedding its mask. My child, you belong to this process. Your awakening does not only rescue your own soul, it is a signal. When you step out, others watch, and they begin to tremble yet move. When you speak truth, others hear, and they begin to breathe. When you live without hiding, others gain permission to lay down their disguises. I do not use you as an actor, but as a light, and light does not need to perform. It only needs to shine. Shine in the night. Shine on the great stage of history. Shine to reveal what is real and what is false. The velvet curtain is being drawn back. The battlefield is forming, and you are not standing outside of it. You stand exactly where I have placed you, at the time I have chosen, in the portion of the story I have written. As the curtain of this age pulls back, you will witness a blazing paradox that leaves your heart stunned and in awe. What was once praised will reveal its rot within, and what was once despised will gleam like gold. Surfaces will fall, cores will stand. Those outer things that glitter fame, titles, image, once dazzled your eyes, made you question yourself. made you believe you were not enough. But I say, my light will divide. What is wood? Hay. And straw will burn quickly when my fire touches it. But what is gold will only shine brighter. You will see this unfold not only in your own life, but around you, in places you once thought untouchable. There are those who have been applauded, praised, placed on high platforms, yet their words have rotted inside. Their outer shell is polished and beautiful, but beneath it is the stench of greed, fear, self-exaltation, and spiritual politics. I do not say this so you will despise them, but so you will discern when fire comes. Not everything that burns is judgment. Some things burn because they were fake, and there are things that will not burn: the small, the humble, the honest, the unnoticed. I will lay them bare. No need for loud announcements. Light alone is enough. What was once celebrated will crack on its own, not because I smashed it, but because its very structure was hollow. At the same time, what was once despised, the small ones, the quiet hearts, the hidden acts, the prayers whispered in secret rooms will appear like gold under ash. You will see things no one valued suddenly become precious. A faithful heart will shine brighter than an elaborate system. The intercession of an unknown person will carry more weight than a noisy platform. A silent sacrifice will echo louder than a grand ceremony. I have seen the grains of gold buried in the ashes of disappointment, dismissed in human eyes. My fire will not burn them away. My fire will reveal them. Every ray of light that falls is a word of justice pronounced. This great reversal will overwhelm you. You once thought justice was only about punishing the wicked, but justice is also about lifting up the forgotten. In my wind, the light feathers are blown away, and the heavy ore remains. Some hands that were once empty will be filled. Some hands that clutched tightly will be forced to let go. Not because I enjoy overturning order, but because I always do what is right. My fire shows no favoritism. It does not ask who is famous. It does not check who is popular. It simply touches. And when it touches, gold shines and ash scatters. You will see this in places where you once doubted, in people you thought had nothing, in moments you believed were meaningless. I declare nothing real is lost. Only what is false is taken away. You may have looked at yourself and thought, not worthy, not much, not important. But I see gold beneath the ash. I see a small but genuine faith. I see unrecognized faithfulness. I see your night tears that no one applauded. I see your hand on another's shoulder when no one was watching. I see the small but sincere apology. I see the seeds willing to be buried. When the season of fire comes, I do not burn you. I shake the ash off of you. You will not be consumed. You will shine. False glory will decay. True glory will spread. This will fill you with holy fear. I distinguish more clearly than you think. I am more just than you expect. I am more merciful than you believe. You will begin to long for justice, not as revenge, but as right light. When right light stands on the earth, the soul can breathe. When the false falls, the true stands. There will be shaking. But within the shaking, there is grace. There will be collapses. But within the collapse, there is release. There will be curtains closing. But right after that, new curtains will open. You will see the small yet steady, the hidden yet honest, the weak yet enduring. These are gold. I have placed them in the fire to reveal their beauty. The age of hollow glitter is passing. The age of true glory is coming, and you belong to it. In the moment when everything shakes and becomes exposed, you will discover something essential for the soul. Not every noise is true. When the surface collapses, noise rises like waves. People will argue, shout, declare, judge, assign blame. Every voice will want to be heard. Every voice will want to prove something. Loud words, pounding fists, strong assertions will overwhelm your ears. And if you are not careful, you will believe that power belongs to volume. But I teach you a principle of heaven. Truth does not need to shout. Truth stands firm without spectacle. Truth does not compete for the stage. It simply stands. And when the dust settles, only what stands will still be standing. There was a moment when Elijah hid in the cave and waited for my voice in the storm, in the earthquake, in the fire. Everything shook, everything roared, but I was not in the commotion. After all of it came only a gentle whisper, 1 Kings 1:9-1-2, and Elijah covered his face. Not because the wind was strong, but because it was sacred. Truth often arrives like that, not flamboyant, not needing to justify itself, not pushing other voices aside. It only needs to be present. When you chase noise, you are pulled into conflict. When you listen to the small voice, you find the way. Noise speaks much, but does not lead. The small voice leads, but does not force. That is how I speak, not loud. But sure, this will require discernment. Not everything you hear in times of shaking is trustworthy. Some voices come from fear, some from ego, some from anger, some from unhealed wounds, some from ambition dressed as righteousness. Such voices will try to draw you, will want allies, will invite you to take sides so you can feel right. But truth does not need a side. It needs a person who knows how to bow, how to listen, how to distinguish. You will sense in your heart a strange calm when noise is at its loudest. You will know that my voice is not loud. I do not shout to win. I stand to lead. Do not let your ears deceive you into thinking power belongs to volume. Wisdom belongs to depth. When everyone is fighting to speak, do not rush to add your voice. Listen, perceive. Let your heart become still like a lake. In that stillness you will recognize what is true. Truth does not change tone when opposed. Truth does not tremble when ignored. Truth does not raise its volume to dominate. Truth stands, and reality adjusts around it. Truth is like a rock in the middle of a river. The water rushes, foam flies, but the rock does not move. When you hold to that rock, you will not be carried away by waves. You do not need to win the argument. You only need to stand in the right place. You may see people loud and certain, and it may make you waver. But remember, this noise consumes energy. Truth generates energy. The one who shouts will grow tired. The one who is true will grow strong. The peace in truth is not passive, it is focused. When you are no longer pulled by external voices, you can hear the inner one. When you do not need to win, you can move. When you are not afraid of being wrong, you can learn. When you are not busy proving, you can love. Truth is not a weapon to attack others, it is a rock to stand on. And when you stand, wind may blow, waves may strike, but you will not fall. In this age, I am teaching you a precious skill, choosing which voice to hear. Not every voice deserves a reaction. Not every voice deserves attention. Some voices are nothing but wind through grass. Some are metal clanging. Some are the noise of those afraid of being exposed. I do not call you to respond to everything. I call you to respond to me. When you hear the small voice, you find direction. When you let that voice lead, you do not lose your way. And as you follow, not loudly, not showily, you become a sign of what is true in a world flooded with false sound. There will be moments on this journey when you discover that what makes you tremble is not darkness, but the feeling of being alone, when noise has faded, when masks have fallen, when the crowd no longer applauds outward things. You will step into a very wide and very empty place, the square of truth. There are not many people there. There is no comfort of consensus. There is no safety of majority. But there is light. You may see yourself standing solitary, a single figure, a single breath. And in that very moment, I want you to understand truth does not need a crowd. Truth only needs one soul willing to stand upright. Many assume that the strength of truth lies in numbers, that without a crowd behind it, truth is weak. But truth is not like opinion. Opinion requires a crowd to survive. Truth existed before the crowd and will remain after the crowd. When you stand in the square, not to fight, not to prove, not to convince, just to stand straight, there is a majesty that covers you. Not majesty of self, but of the one who stands with you. You may feel alone, but it is not the loneliness of abandonment. It is holy solitude, not empty, but focused, not cold, but clear. There is a presence that walks with those who stand, not loud, not theatrical, not needing announcement, simply the weight of knowing where you belong, while others are still calculating, negotiating, adjusting. Truth stands like a great tree in the square roots, deep in the earth. Branches stretching toward the sky. People pass by, some mock, some glance. Some stand at a distance and whisper, but the tree does not explain. It stands. It drinks light. It holds the soil. It offers shade. It does not need the crowd to be legitimate. It only needs earth and heaven. You are like that. When you stand straight in me, you are not alone. You are where I place my feet. In this age of unmasking, you will see many stepping back to seek safety in the group. They will look around. Who is saying what? Who agrees? Who approves? They will wait for the crowd to give them courage. But truth does not wait for the crowd. It arrives like dawn, first a thin line, then a rim of light, then the whole sky. Dawn does not ask how many are ready for its shining. It simply comes, and that light reveals what is beautiful and what needs healing. When you stand in that light, you also become a sign. You do not call others over. You simply stand. Someone, far off, will see and begin to breathe. You will experience this outward loneliness and inward fullness. On the outside, not many companions. On the inside, no lack of presence. Holy solitude does not shrink the soul. It clarifies it. You do not cling to the crowd to feel right. You cling to me. You do not wait for applause to know you are standing in the right place. You hear the small voice, the gentle whisper that says, "Stand." And when you stand, I stand with you, not behind you, not from far away, but right beside you, shoulder to shoulder, sharing the same shadow. A soul that stands upright in truth shakes the space around it, not with shouting, but with presence. You do not need to win arguments, do not need to persuade, do not need to justify. You only need to be faithful. The crowd may change, but truth does not. Today they cheer. Tomorrow they oppose, but the light still shines. If you attach yourself to the crowd, you will drift with them. If you attach yourself to me, you will stand even when the crowd dissolves and when wind sweeps across the square. It will not be you who trembles. It will be the crowd that scatters like dry leaves. I speak to you with a gentle yet steady voice. You are enough to stand. Not because you are strong, but because I am with you. Not because you understand everything, but because you hear my voice. Not because you are many, but because you are true. One person standing upright in truth carries more weight than 1,000 standing in fear. Not the weight of ego, but the weight of glory. Not the weight of hardness, but of peace. You stand not to provoke, but to reflect. You stand not to rebel, but to remain faithful. Alone in the square, yet not lonely, I am there. There is something that naturally happens when you stand in truth. Some who once stood close will begin to leave. Not because you have done something harsh, not because you suddenly became hard to love, not because you are wrong, but because the light does not agree with their eyes. When light increases, those who are used to dimness will squint, turn away, and look for a softer shade. This is not a personal war. It is a change of season. When seasons change, leaves fall not out of hatred, but by the law of life. There are relationships that were needed for a time. But when truth in you grows, the rhythm changes, and they no longer walk. You will feel sadness, but not heaviness, like the chill of early morning, a little empty, but clear and fresh. Light does not only expose what is false in others, it exposes what is true in you. When you live truthfully, you no longer perform in order to keep people. You no longer dim your light so no one feels uncomfortable. You no longer bend yourself to fit every angle. You no longer place harmony above truth. You stand upright, not to oppose, but so you will not bow. Some who liked you because you were easy will be surprised to see you speak honestly. Some who leaned on you to feel right will dislike that you no longer agree. Some who called you sweet will not know what to call you when you become clear. You will not shout, you will simply shine. John 3:19-21 says, that light came. But people loved darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. Whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that their works may be seen as done in God. I do not use this to condemn, but so you understand when you step into the light. Not everyone will come with you. Some choose the dimness, not because they are monsters, but because they are not yet ready. They do not yet want to see what they must face. Light does not only illuminate the path, it illuminates the heart, and that wounds pride. Some will call you difficult. Some will say you have changed. But you have not changed. You have returned. There is a light sadness when people leave. You have poured in time, given affection, opened your home. Let them rest on your shoulder and your words. Now they step back. You will ask, what did I do wrong? I answer gently, nothing wrong. You simply shine. When truth in you stands straight, not everyone can stand beside it. Light reveals the layers they are not ready to lay down. You do not need to judge them. You only need to keep walking. Every season has its falling leaves, not to die, but to prepare for new buds. When some leaves fall, the tree does not despair. The tree knows the season is turning. A deep peace will come to you when you accept this. Those who belong to you in the light will stay. Those who belong to you in the dark will leave when day breaks. No argument needed. No clinging. No explaining. You do not have to keep anyone with your smile or your silence. You only need to remain faithful to me. to the truth, to the self I created you to be. The ones who are truly yours will recognize the light. Even if it dazzles at first, they will squint, but they will stay. They will step closer, place a hand on your shoulder, and speak the right word at the right time. They will love you truly, not for your mask, but for your spirit. When you stand in the dawn, shadows fall behind you. Some shadows will stretch and then vanish. Some will step up beside you. You do not need to grieve that. You need to know this is justice, not loss. This is grace, not punishment. This is transition. And your new season will not begin with applause, but with a beautiful quiet, a space to breathe, a space of light. You feel sad, but light. You remember, but with peace. You no longer hold on out of fear of losing. You open your hands in trust, and I walk with you. When people leave and you remain in the light, a new path appears right at your feet. To stand on the side of truth is not only to believe rightly, but to live rightly, not with theory, but with the way you love. For a long time, you loved with a mask for safety, for peacekeeping, for maintaining an image. You forgave with a smile, but kept accounts in your heart. You spoke gently, but circled around the point to avoid upsetting anyone. You loved like murky water. It looked clear enough, but you could not see the bottom. I say this truth will purify the way you love, not to throw you into bitterness, but to set you free. Clear water is not bland. Clear water is clean. You lose nothing when your heart is clear. You gain. Loving without pretense is not loving wildly. It is loving without agenda. Not loving to prove you are good. Not loving to keep someone close. Not loving to buy acceptance. You love because you are loved. Your heart has been locked for a long time out of fear of being hurt. I do not scold that. It is the reflex of one who has been wounded. But I am unlocking you, not so that anyone can walk in as they please, but so that you can breathe. A locked heart may not be hurt deeply, but it also cannot be touched deeply. When you unlock, love stops being a strategy. It becomes breath. Forgiveness stops being a strain. It becomes a flow. Forgiveness in truth is not erasing memory, nor pretending it did not hurt. Forgiveness is laying down the burden of collection. You have kept invoices in your heart. They owe me an apology. They owe me understanding. They owe me repair. Each invoice is a stone in your bag. You walk slower. Your shoulders ache. Your breath is heavy. Forgiveness does not say that what happened was painless. Forgiveness says you will no longer carry it. You hand the invoices to me. I am the one who settles accounts. When you stop demanding, you become light, not because justice is abandoned, but because justice is placed where it belongs. Forgiveness cleanses the soul like clear water washing mud. You will see when you release. You do not lose, you are freed. Speaking without circling around is also part of truth. You have chosen your words like choosing steps among shards of glass. Afraid to hurt, afraid to lose someone. But the circling speech exhausts your heart. It is like trying to breathe through a thick cloth. You think you are keeping peace, but you are only keeping a thin surface. Truth is not harsh, truth is gentle. You do not need to be sharp. Do not need to be cutting. Do not need to be condemning. You only need to be clear. Clear not to win, but to live. When you speak truth out of love, your words do not break, they heal. You do not speak to impress, you speak to release. The listener may be surprised, but they will respect you. and your soul will breathe. None of this forces you to become someone else. It returns you to yourself. To love without pretense, to forgive without collecting debts, to speak without circles. Each one is a door in your inner house that is opened. Light passes through. The space grows airy. The air becomes fresh. You will be surprised you ever lived in a dark room, not because you liked the dark, but because you were afraid to open the door. Now the door is open, and the space within you widens. You no longer hold others by fear, and you no longer hold yourself by tension. You stand in truth as by a clear stream, seeing the bottom, cool, clean, and free. Your heart will open wide, not open without boundaries, but open with discernment. You will know who may go deep and who must remain at the porch. You will not be bitter, not closed, not vengeful. You will simply be true. And in that truth, love becomes strong. No more confusion. No more exhaustion from acting. No more straining to be accepted. You will love gently, yet deeply. You will forgive slowly, yet genuinely. You will speak little, yet right. In that place, your soul will taste what it has longed for, clean. A spiritual cleanness, not the cleanness of perfection, but the cleanness of free breathing. I do not wait for you to be perfect before I love you. I do not wait for your trembling to stop before I draw near. I do not wait for you to fix every mistake before I lay my hand on your cheek. I love your real face even when it is flushed, smudged, and anxious. You once thought I preferred your strong version, the version that answers correctly, stays composed, smiles in trials. You thought I smiled when you stood tall and was saddened when you bowed your head. But the truth is, I love you even more in the moment you bow. I do not love the mask. I love the real face. The mask is beautiful, but not alive. The real face trembles, but lives. I choose life. There are days when you look in the mirror and see tiredness in your own eyes. Not the tiredness of too little sleep, but the tiredness of too little breath. You adjust your hair, your clothes, your rehearsed responses so you will look fine. I stand behind you and see what you do not see, the light behind your lashes. You see the swelling and the lines. I see your story. You see failure. I see courage. You see what is not yet beautiful. I see what has been kept. When you tremble, I do not back away. When you are weak, I am not confused. I have never loved the mask. I love the soul. When you lift the mask just a little, I lean down, place my hand on your cheek, not to inspect, but to embrace. My love does not love by condition, it loves by seeing. When I look, I do not only see what is today, I see what I designed at the beginning. You are not a defective product. You are an image. Not the image of achievement, but the image of the Creator. You wore masks to be accepted, but you were accepted long before you wore them. You put on masks so others would not see your weakness, but I have loved precisely those weak parts, like a father holding your face in his hands and saying, I delight in you, not in the version you strive to be, but in you. That love does not press, does not hurry, does not judge. It gives the soul room to unfold. When you show me your real face, you are not exposing your ugliness, you are revealing your beauty. The real face carries a light the mask will never have. The mask is glossy and smooth, but cold. The real face bears the lines of your story, nights of tears, mornings of hope, the wrinkles of genuine laughter. I touch those lines like someone touching ancient wood, not sanding away the grain, not painting over it, just brushing it gently and recognizing its worth. You do not need to erase the marks to be loved by me. The marks themselves are evidence that I have kept you through the fire. I will not love you once you stop trembling. I love you as you tremble. My love does not wait for perfection. My love is what makes you beautiful. There is no shame in my gaze, only love. There is no comparison in my hands, only lifting. You once avoided eye contact so you would not be measured, but I do not measure, I receive. When you look up and meet my eyes, you will see something you never truly believed. I am glad to see you. Not glad because of success, glad because of presence. You are here. You are real. You are not hiding. You are not acting. That is a heavenly moment. The mask may look more polished, but it can never be embraced. I do not embrace the mask. I embrace you. If you knew this deep in your heart, you would cherish yourself, not with arrogance, but with a sense of worth. You would care for your soul like someone tending a treasured garden. You would speak to yourself more gently. You would no longer use harsh words to strike your own heart. You would not demand perfection from yourself in order to be loved. You would live as someone loved first. That is foundation. That is identity. That is truth. I love your real face even while it still trembles and is not yet perfect, because it is there that my glory is reflected. I know you want it to be finished quickly. You want to wake up one morning and find every mask gone, every fear removed, every burden fallen. You want to be light instantly, bright instantly, free instantly. But I do not lead you by that path, not because I enjoy prolonging, but because I enjoy being with you. I do not complete you in a single day. I walk with you layer by layer, like peeling an onion, not yanking hard, not tearing apart, not hurting beyond what you can bear, just one layer, one breath, one day at a time. Each layer falls not by your willpower, but by my presence. You do not have to force change. You only need to remain in me. And change will come. There are layers you have forgotten you wear. A layer of fear of being criticized. A layer of craving praise. A layer of pain that was never allowed to cry. A layer of responsibility you never laid down. Each layer is a story. Each layer has a reason. I do not despise that. I do not say, "Why are you so weak?" I say, "I know why you carry this. I saw it all before you dared to look. I am not surprised when the mask falls. I have long been preparing my arms to catch you when it does. When one layer falls, you will feel lighter, and at the same time, a little empty, like new skin touching the wind for the first time. You tremble a little. I am there. You breathe. I breathe with you. There are layers that fall easily, like a jacket after a hot afternoon. But there are layers that cling to your skin, like cloth you have stitched into yourself. You have been so used to them that you named them me. When that layer falls, you think you have lost your identity, but it is not your identity that is gone. It is the covering. I am not taking you away. I am taking what covers you. You think you are exposed. I see you revealed. You think you are weak. I see you beautiful. In Philippians 1:6, the promise stands firm. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. I do not begin and then abandon. I do not love and then leave. I do not build and then forget. I finish. This journey is not a straight line. Some days you move far. Some days you stop. Some days you step back half a step and call it failure. But every day, I am there. I am not disappointed by your pace. I am the Lord of the heartbeat. Your breaths may be shallow. I will breathe deeply beside you. You may lose your calm. I will be your peace. You may fall to the ground. I will sit with you there. You think you are slow, but I call it on time. I do not need you to run. I need you to walk with me. One step, then another, then another. Each step is a small victory recorded in heaven. You will see something strange happen when a layer falls. You do not become empty, you become clear. No longer vague, no longer drained, no longer pressured to fit someone else's image. You live lighter, but not weaker. Light because you are not straining. Strong because you are true. One layer falls, then another, and with each one, you breathe deeper. You will discover something. Breath is grace. When the mask covers, you breathe shallow. When the mask falls, you breathe deep. You do not just live, you live with air. You do not just exist, you are present. And I am there. Not to push, but to accompany. I am more patient with you than you are with yourself. I do not count your failures. I count your breaths. I do not grade your progress. I honor your returning. When you come back, I embrace. When you come back, I smile. When you come back, I say, we continue from here. Every fallen layer is a layer healed. Every fallen layer is another place where you see yourself in true light. Not rushed, not forced, not all in a day, but steady, complete, beautiful, and enduring. This is not your project. This is my work, and I have never begun anything I did not intend to finish. Truth is not the place where you are dragged into a crowd to hear a verdict. Truth is the place where you are carried into a quiet room, where the light falls softly without hurting your eyes. You once confused these two. You thought that when I called you into truth, I would place you in front of everyone and make you answer for every flaw, every weakness, every old wound. You thought the light would expose everything ugly in you and people would judge. You trembled. You stepped back. You chose silence so nothing would be revealed. But I speak to you with a gentle breath. Truth is not a courtroom. Truth is a hospital. In a courtroom, people look for fault. In a hospital, people look for healing. My truth does not call your name to shame you. It calls your name to bandage you. You once stepped into truth like someone afraid of interrogation. You held your breath, kept your shoulders straight, tried to appear strong, like a patient pretending to be healthy when the doctor asks, but that posture comes from fear, not from love. In my light, you do not need to hide your wounds. No one can heal what is covered. You do not need to be strong to be held by me. You only need to be true. I say this to you, the place I seat you is not on the defendant's bench, but on the bed of someone being cared for. When you come to me, you do not hear the sound of a gavel. You hear a door opening, footsteps approaching, a chair being drawn close. I do not stand far away taking notes. I sit beside you, place my hand over your chest, and say, breathe. Truth is safe. The light in the room is not harsh. It is warm. It is gentle. It does not blind you. It helps you see. My truth is nothing like the world's truth. The world uses truth to win. I use truth to heal. The world uses truth to expose. I use truth to set free. When I shine light on a place in you, it is not so that others may see. It is so you may see and be healed. Truth is medicine. Medicine sometimes tastes bitter, but it saves lives. You once avoided the medicine because you feared the bitterness. But I offer it in small sips, with water, with my hand on your back. You do not take it alone. In my presence, bitter becomes sweet, not because the medicine changes, but because your heart trusts. When you sit in real light, you realize something: judgment is not there. You once heard heavy voices in your head: you are inadequate, you failed, you are not enough. Those are not my words. I do not need to say those things. I know you have heard them all your life. I have come to say what you have never heard: you are loved even before you are healed. That is healing truth. Not truth built on performance, but truth built on identity. When you know you are loved first, you are no longer afraid to open your heart. You are no longer afraid to look at what is not yet beautiful. You are no longer afraid to call things by their right name. Because where I am, truth is not a spear, truth is light. And that light does not judge you. It simply lets you see the path out of darkness. There is a deep peace when you know you are in the right place. You have been in rooms where silence was a threat. You have been in rooms where light meant interrogation. You have been in rooms where breathing hurt. But my room is not like that. In my room, silence is peace. Light is gentle. Breath is deep. You sit and think, this is home. Not the home of success. Not the home of image. Not the home of effort. The home of truth. Your home. You do not have to strain to be here. The door to my room does not close by fear, but by love. When you enter, you do not lose anything. You find yourself where truth heals. You no longer argue with yourself. No more dialogue between two inner voices, one accusing, one defending. When I am in the room, accusation grows quiet, not because it is gagged, but because it has no grounds to speak. You do not need to defend yourself. I am your defense. You do not need to prove anything. I know. You do not need permission to cry. I place the handkerchief beside you. You do not need to explain. I understand. Some tears that fall in my room are not from pain, but from relief. Like water overflowing after a long drought. Not loud, not dramatic, just water, just life. When you are in truth, you are not judged, you are healed. You see clearly that the fear of judgment has made you avoid blessing. You have avoided truth to avoid pain. But it is truth that brings healing. You will feel this very clearly. The wound is not the worst place. The wound is the place I touch the most. The places you have hidden most carefully are the places I draw nearest. Not to expose, but to bandage. Not to convict, but to save. I do not come as a prosecutor. I come as a physician. A prosecutor asks, where is the guilt? A physician asks, where does it hurt? You will not confuse these anymore. My truth always asks the second question. When you let me tend to you, you will notice something strange. You begin to trust yourself more. Not trust in your own strength, but trust in the light I put inside you. You recognize what is right not by fear, but by peace. You speak truth without harshness. You hear truth without collapsing. You live truth without boasting. Truth becomes breath. You walk lightly. You stand upright. You look with open eyes, not eyes of suspicion, but eyes of hope. Truth makes the rooms inside your soul clean. Not clean from perfection, but clean from air. You dwell in truth the way someone rests at home after a long journey. You are not on guard. You do not keep your luggage on your lap. You set it down. You sit. You breathe. You know that I am here. And that is enough. No more tension of trying. No more fear of judgment. No more exhaustion from performance. Only steady breath, a peaceful heartbeat, and a deep knowing you are home. When the coverings fall, the first thing you expect to be revealed is the wound, the scar, the traces of weakness. You fear others will see what you have tried to hide. You fear the light will expose what is not beautiful. But I tell you this: when the mask falls, what appears is not ugliness, but the light I placed in you from the beginning. Every false layer only covered a brightness that was already yours. Every role only hid your true face. When they fall away, your face does not darken, it shines. Not because you strain, but because I am within you. Like Moses coming down from the mountain, his face reflected my glory, Exodus 3:4-9. Not because he tried to shine, but because he had been near me. Light is not effort. Light is the result of nearness. I do not place light on the mask. I put light inside you. When the mask disappears, you do not need to find a new source. You only need not to cover the old one. You do not need spiritual makeup to appear holy. You do not need to apply thick layers of perfection. True light does not come from polishing. True light comes from presence. When you stay near me, my breath rests on you. My radiance clings to you. No secret formula, no trick, no striving. You are in me. I am in you, and your face begins to reflect it. There is a spiritual elegance that a mask can never give. A mask may look beautiful, dazzling, impressive, but it is the shine of plastic, the shine of metal, a cold shine. My light is different. It is warm. It is gentle. It touches people without making them shrink. It does not pierce. It invites. It does not show off. It comforts. It does not display power. It gives peace. When you walk down the street, people may not know why they suddenly feel lighter, but something in you softens the air. Not because you are perfect, but because your true face reflects my presence. The light you carry is not advertisement, it is presence. A true face that knows how to laugh is a gift. A true face that knows how to weep is a miracle. A true face that does not need to prove anything is glory. You do not have to worry about what people will think when you no longer hide. Those who seek truth will come toward the light. Those who love darkness will step back. That is not failure, that is discernment. Not everyone will like the light, but everyone will see the light, and those whom I have called will recognize it. Not recognize you, recognize me in you. Radiance does not belong to ego, radiance belongs to covenant. You and me, near and bright. No mask in between. There are mornings when you look into the mirror and notice something strange. Your face looks lighter. Not because you slept well, but because you are no longer trying. You no longer arrange your features according to proper expression. You no longer pull your mouth into a smile. You no longer hide traces of weariness. You simply stand there. Breathe, and the light appears in your eyes. You no longer demand that you look perfect. You only need to look true. And truth is beautiful. Not stage beautiful, but soul beautiful. People see it, even when you do not try to make them see. Spiritual light does not need a lens. It only needs not to be covered. Wherever light touches, darkness must retreat, not because the light is violent, but because the light is the nature of heaven. You carry that light not through slogans, but through living true. People once knew you under the mask pleasant, polite, gentle. Now they see you with your true face clear, peaceful, deep. Some will be confused. Some will say, you have changed. But you have not changed, you have appeared. You once shrank yourself to fit the spaces of others. Now you no longer shrink. You stand full not to take space, but to keep the space I gave. Your light is not loud. Your light is not boastful. Your light simply exists, and that is enough. There is a new joy in the soul when you live unhidden. No more fear of being exposed. No more worry that someone will see a weak place. No more panic under someone's eyes. My eyes have seen first. I have seen everything, and I still love. When you know that, you no longer fear the light. Light becomes your friend. Light becomes your home. Light becomes your rest. People look at you and think, there is something about this person, but not perfect, not special, just real. And real is rare. Real is beautiful. Real is glory. As Moses came down from the mountain, his face shone. He did not know. Exodus 3:4-9 says clearly Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone because he had been speaking with the Lord. You will not know all the light you carry. You do not need to know. Light is not for you to see yourself. Light is so that the lost can see the way. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts, not because you are strong, but because you are true. People breathe deeper without knowing why. Their hearts soften, their fears quiet. The light you carry is not yours. It is me in you. And when no mask blocks it, the light finds a path. You become spiritually elegant, not the elegance of outward riches, but of the inner life, not the display of wealth, but the posture of someone who knows they are loved, not pride, but dignity, not coldness, but serenity. When you walk, you do not walk to impress, you walk with deep breath. When you speak, you do not speak to control, you speak to love. When you look, you do not look to evaluate, you look to see. This is the elegance of a soul set free, nothing lacking, nothing excess, nothing false. The mask once promised you a place, but it stole your breath. Now your true face stands, and breath is deep. I am pleased, not because you are perfect, but because you are near. Light is not far. Light does not fight. Light simply shines. And when my light shines through your true face, darkness cannot remain close. Not because you chase it away, but because you exist. This is glory, not the shout of triumph, but the breath of a soul that knows I am in you. You do not need to promote the light. You do not need to write declarations to prove that you have entered a new season. You do not need to stand on a platform and announce that you have changed. True light needs no stage. True light has its own language. It spreads through silence, through your posture, through the way you look, through the peace in the seat where you rest. People recognize it not because you try to impress, but because light cannot be hidden, like a candle in the night. Even if you cover it with your hand, the light still escapes between your fingers. You do not need to try harder, you only need to be present. Your presence carries what I have placed in you. You once believed that in order for people to see the good, you had to strive. You had to choose the right words, behave the right way, make sure no one saw the days you were weak. You tried to adjust your posture, your voice, your energy, like someone arranging a chair on stage before a performance. You were tired. You thought you were tired because of work, but you were tired because of performance. When the mask fell, you expected people to turn away, but something miraculous happened. People looked at you differently, not with analyzing eyes, but with recognizing eyes. Not because you were impressive, but because you were true. People are moved not by display, but by authenticity. You did nothing to influence. It was your lack of trying that influenced. The light in you spreads naturally, like fragrance. Fragrance does not strive. It simply exists. There are people who step near and feel lighter. There are people who sit beside you for a moment and find their breath deepen. They do not know why. You do not know why. But I know light needs no introduction. It needs no explanation. It needs no invitation. It only needs not to be covered. People recognize it not because the light forces its way into them, but because when they come close, their own darkness senses something different. Not condemnation, but invitation. Not pressure, but warmth. Light does not argue. Light clarifies. There is a beautiful paradox in this. You do not strive, yet you shine. Once, you strove to shine. You tried to be liked, to be accepted, to be praised. But that light was artificial. It was like metallic glitter under a lamp, dazzling, but cold. Now your light is like morning light, not harsh, but impossible to ignore. It does not blind anyone, it helps them see. You no longer need to fix anyone. You only need to live true. When you live true, light spreads, not outward first, but inward, from your heart into the atmosphere around you. Those who enter that brightness know they can breathe. Not everyone will like it. Some will turn away, like eyes not yet used to the dawn. But there are ones who have been waiting. They are tired of pretending. They are tired of playing roles. They are tired of crowded gatherings with empty hearts. When they see real light, even just a single streak, they will stop. They do not need you to preach. They do not need you to prove anything. They just need to know there is a place where no one is acting. Your presence becomes a testimony, not a loud testimony, but a testimony of peace. Peace cannot be hidden. People will see that you are not in a hurry. You are not panicked. You do not need to compete for a share. You do not need to draw attention to yourself. That is spiritual elegance. There will be mornings when you step out into the street without spiritual slogans, without the strained gaze of someone trying to influence. You simply breathe. You simply walk. And the person beside you feels something. Not a great shaking, just a lightness, like the rustle of leaves when the wind passes, like sunlight lying on the floor, like the aroma of hot tea. Such things do not shout, but anyone nearby senses them. Light has its own way. It reaches the heart before it reaches the mind. People will come near you, not because you are trying to say something profound, but because they feel safe. They recognize that in you there is a place of rest. You do not know all the places where you have carried light. You only know that wherever you pass, the air changes a little, like a heavy room with the window opened, like a tense space receiving a small laugh, like a closed face being seen with gentle eyes. Not a noisy miracle, a quiet one. Others notice it without knowing what to call it. They will ask, "Why do I feel better when I'm around you?" And you will not answer with a formula. You will simply smile, because you know the light is not yours. It is me in you. You cannot take credit for it. You also cannot stop it. Light spreads like water seeking low places, it finds its own way. There will be times when you feel you are not doing enough. You think you should speak more, teach more, share more. But I want you to hear this: the greatest transformation does not pass through your words, but through your breath, through your peace, through your truth, through the fact that you are not acting, through your lack of impatience. You are not responsible to save anyone. You are not responsible to pull anyone. You only need to love and be real. I will do the rest. The light in you is evidence that I am at work, not evidence for the world, but evidence for heaven. When the angels look, they recognize their master's light on your face. Deep joy will come quietly, not the joy of loud victory, not the joy of praise, not the joy of achievement, the joy of knowing you are living true, knowing you are no longer split between real and fake, knowing the burden of acting has fallen, knowing you no longer have to strain in order to be loved, knowing your lungs are full, knowing light has a path, knowing you do not have to strive to spread it, you only have to live. And as you live, light flows like the river from the temple. Ezekiel 47, gentle yet strong, small yet deep, unable to be stopped by walls or limits. That is your part in this season: presence, not display, not persuasion, not debate. Presence. When you are present, I am present through you. And when I am present, others notice, not because you are trying, but because light cannot be hidden. There is no more time for hiding, no more reason to shrink, no more use in trading one mask for another. Step out. You have sat long enough at the edge of the forest, watching faces pass by, beautiful but cold, polite but distant, dazzling but lifeless. I did not make you to resemble them. I made you to carry a torch through the night, not a torch of control, but a torch of presence, not a torch to destroy, but a torch to illuminate, not a torch to prove, but a torch to guide. You do not walk alone. I walk in light before you, and that light reflects in you like sun in the eyes of the water. No more hiding, no more pretending, only light. You once walked softly, afraid your footsteps would reveal that you were there. You once chose the far corner, afraid someone might ask deep questions. You once let night surround you, not because you loved darkness, but because you feared the light would ask, "Who are you?" Now that question is no longer frightening, because you know the answer. You are the one I call, not because you are perfect, but because you are true, not because you are strong, but because you know how to lean, not because you are many, but because you are one. Light does not need a crowd. Light needs faithfulness. You do not need a big stage. You only need to step into the place where I have already set my feet. As you walk, darkness will retreat, not because you are fierce, but because you are present. Your life becomes my words spoken into an invisible square. Step into the places still heavy with the breath of fear. Step into rooms full of laughter and empty hearts. Step onto streets where everyone plays strong to hide their fragility, not to expose them, but to show them there is another way to live. No more acting, no more self-defense, no more hiding behind politeness, no more nodding while the heart cries. You carry a truth that is not harsh, a truth that knows how to embrace. You do not come to win an argument. You come to win hearts. You come to prove, with your very breathing, that peace is stronger than fear. People will be surprised to see you unshaken when the wind is strong. They will ask why. The answer is not a philosophy. It is a simple sentence: I am with you. No more comparing. No more waiting for permission. No more looking to the sides to see if someone else has gone first. Step first. You do not need boldness in the human sense. You carry the boldness of a soul that has a home. Those who have a home do not rush. Do not fear the wind. Do not need to flaunt their address. They simply know the way. You know the way, because I go before you. What lies ahead is not just a place to stand, it is an assignment. Not a heavy assignment, but a radiant one. To walk into places where masks rule, with a real face. To walk into spaces where people hide their souls, with an open soul. To walk among those who long to be loved, but fear exposing their weakness, with a heart that is unlocked. You do not come to take, you come to bring, like someone carrying a torch into a dark forest. The small flame in your hand is enough for the lost to find their way again. You do not need a massive fire. You only need a real one. You carry that fire from me, not from yourself. You do not fear it going out, because its source is not in your hand, but in your heart. When you are weak, I breathe on it. When you are tired, I add oil. When you are sad, I hold you. The flame will not fail. No more trembling at the dark. No more exhaustion from trying to shine. No more waiting for someone else to go first. Step out. Your light will not blind others. It will remind them that in the beginning, they too were made to shine. This is the time you rise not to impress, but to live true. You lay down the mask not to showcase yourself, but to let the light pass through. You enter the new season not with a shout, but with steady breaths. You do not carry a strategy, you carry truth. No more hiding behind excuses. No more delaying out of fear of not being enough. No more apologizing for existing. Step out. I am with you. My light in you will lead you through streets, through rooms, through every encounter. Wherever you go, the atmosphere will shift. Not because you act strong, but because you are present. No more hiding. No more pretending. Only light. I know the first step is always the hardest, not because the legs are heavy, but because the heart doubts. You ask, what if I step and no one follows? What if I step and people laugh? What if I step and I fall? I hear all those questions. I do not scold. I place my hand on your back, where you have tightened every time you needed to prove you were fine. And I say, step, not because there is no fear, but because I am here. Walk not because of perfect confidence, but because of perfect trust. There are paths that only open when you place your foot on them. There are miracles that only happen when you go. If you do not walk, you will not see. You have grown used to sitting on the sidelines, watching others act, thinking they are stronger than you, holier than you, more worthy to be used than you. But you do not know their story. You only know your own story, and that very story is a tool. People do not need flawless heroes. They need someone who knows weakness, yet still stands. People do not need a perfect victor. They need someone who has trembled, who has fallen, who has cried, and still dares to step out again. You are that one, not because you wanted it, but because I called not for performance, called for love. Imagine you holding a torch. The flame is not large, but enough to light a few steps ahead. The forest night is thick. Dew gathers. Leaves whisper like the tired breath of the world. No one knows you are there. No applause. No stage lights. But the fire in your hand shines. With every step, the light wavers across the ground, and darkness shrinks a little. No one shouts. No one cheers. But at the edge of the woods, a lost person sees that small flame. There is no need to call loudly. No need for signs. Just light. That person will come near. That is the secret of light. It does not pull by noise. It pulls by direction. I have placed direction in you. You think you are not skillful, yet you know the way. You think you are not smart, yet you have discernment. You think you are not reliable, yet you have been faithful in small things. Others look at achievement. I look at the direction of the heart. Your heart turns toward me. That is the torch. Those around you are lost not because they are foolish, but because they are hurt. Not because they are evil, but because they are afraid. Not because they chose darkness, but because they cannot see the road. When you walk, you do not walk among enemies. You walk among seekers. They do not know what they are looking for until they see the light. Do not expect your steps to always be steady. There will be times you step on a dry twig and the crack startles your heart. There will be winds that make the flame leap. There will be moments when your eyes sting. But I say, keep going. The flame is not in your hand. The flame is in you. No storm can extinguish the fire I have lit. No fear can extinguish the flame I have placed. No confusion can extinguish the fire I have fed. You do not need to run. You only need to walk steadily. Steady steps are victory. Running is not strength. Sometimes running is fear. Sometimes walking is faith. No more hiding behind polite disguise. No more wearing masks of niceness. No more saying, "It's fine when the heart hurts." No more. You do not need performance to be loved. You have been loved, therefore you can drop the role. That is freedom. That is boldness. True boldness is not making noise. True boldness is walking quietly yet deeply. You are not thunder. You are dawn. Dawn does not need people to believe in it before it rises. It rises. Whether people look or not, it rises. You are the same. You do not walk to be accepted. You walk because you are already accepted. Others will see. Others will ask. Others will follow. But that is not the goal. The goal is to hear my voice and obey. There are doors that will open when you come near. Not because of your effort, but because my hand is on the hinge. You do not need to knock. You only need to stand before it. I open. There are words you do not need to say. I speak through you. There are hearts you cannot soften. I soften them. You only need to be present. Presence is your part. Outcome is mine. Like a torchbearer walking through the night, no shouting, no fear, no performance, just walking. The night does not hate the torch. The night simply cannot stop it. Darkness does not argue with light. It retreats. You are the light I have set within a world of masks, not to expose people, but to invite them home. I say it once more, clearly, so your heart remembers no more hiding, no more pretending, only light and footsteps. The flame in your hand is small, but the flame is true, and true flame always conquers night. I want you to pause for a moment and breathe. Not to breathe to be strong, but to breathe to be deep, slow, even like someone who has just passed through a storm and is watching the sea become calm again. Not calm because the wind is gone, but calm because the heart knows I am here. When you breathe, I am near. When you breathe, you receive. When you breathe, you release. You no longer need to fight for every breath. You do not need to rush to prove anything. You do not need to run to avoid falling behind. You do not need to hurry to avoid being forgotten. You only need to be. Your presence is enough. Because I am present in it. I did not come to place more weight on your shoulders, but to remove the weight you have carried too long. I did not come to ask, "Why are you weak?" I came to say, "I am with you in that weakness." No prerequisites, no contracts, no conditions, only love. There are days you think you are late to life. You look around and see others have gone far, have succeeded, have settled, have found direction. You see yourself slow, uncertain, unclear. You think you have been left behind. But I say you are not late, you are on time with me. Nothing in your life is out of rhythm beyond my reach. The years of waiting have set deep roots. The tears have dug wells in your heart. The seasons that seemed wasted have prepared you for today. I do not waste time. I do not waste souls. I keep every moment, every breath, every step. If you could see yourself with my eyes, you would smile. You would not see failure. You would see perseverance. You would not see slow. You would see faithful. You would not see weakness. You would see softness, and softness is good soil for seeds. It is in that softness that I sow something new. It is in that softness that life grows. You do not need to be hard to survive. You need to be near me to live truly. Near is not effort. Near is direction. Every time you turn your face toward me, you are near. I want you to know something absolutely clearly. You are not alone. You have never been alone. There were moments when you looked around and saw emptiness. But empty is not absence. Empty is space for me to fill. You have been used to crowds and noise, so silence frightens you. But silence is not a threat. Silence is an invitation. In that silence, I breathe near. In that silence, I speak in small voice. In that silence, I place my hand on your chest and say, "You are held." Let this sentence sink into your bones, the way warmth sinks into cloth. You are held. You are known. You are loved. You do not need to do anything more to be worthy. You do not need to achieve anything more to be received. You do not need to win anything more for me to be proud. I was proud when you stood up the 10th time. When you took one small step no one saw. When you spoke truth while trembling. When you loved someone though they did not love back. When you forgave quietly. Heaven rejoices not because you are perfect, but because you are true. There is no applause louder than the sound of a faithful soul. Listen closely, no mask will ever be more beautiful than the true face I created. No role will ever be more glorious than you, simply living true. No artificial light can replace the light I placed in you. You do not need to polish. You do not need to paint. You do not need to adjust your edges. You only need to let the light pass through. That light will find its way into dark corners, tired souls, closed hearts. It will not force. It will not shout. It will not preach like a hammer. It will invite like breath. I want you to enter this season not with burden, but with lightness. Lightness does not mean irresponsibility. Lightness means trust. Lightness means knowing I am holding. Lightness means knowing you do not have to do everything. You do not have to save anyone. I save. You do not have to fix anyone. I fix. You do not have to open doors. I open. You only need to be present and faithful. Faithfulness is light. Faithfulness is fragrance. Faithfulness is the way. Slow down. Breathe. I am here. If you close your eyes in this moment, you will feel my warmth near, not far in the heavens, near like breath beside your ear, near like a hand on your shoulder, near like light through a morning curtain. Near does not frighten you, near gives you life. I call you close, not close to be perfect, close to be true. You have spent much strength acting. Now you will find strength in laying the role down. I do not call you to run. I call you to walk. A small step is still a step. You do not have to prove anything. Only live. Only be. Only trust. Say this in your heart. Not as a slogan, but as a breath. I trust the Lord. I am in Him. He is in me. When you speak it, do not speak loudly. Speak slowly. Speak deeply. Let the words sink the way a stone sinks into water, not lost, but resting. Trust is not a feeling. Trust is a direction. You turn toward me. I do the rest. Tomorrow will come. There will be tasks. There will be people. There will be noise. But you will walk with a different face, not a mask, but your true face. You will breathe deeper. You will see lighter. You will walk slowly but surely. You will speak less but true. And people will sense something, not because you have answers, but because you have light. I place blessing on you for this season, not blessing to keep for yourself, but blessing to carry. You will not return to the shadows. You will not put on the old mask. You will not ask permission to be true. You will live true, because you have been loved true. Thank you for listening to this message today. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so we may receive living words together. Build unshakable faith and walk in the boundless love of God. Amen.